Okay guys, so solving simultaneous equations when one is linear and one is non-linear is what we're going to focus on next. This is part of algebra, but I had waited on doing it till now because I knew it was going to crop up in the circle. Okay, so you can see, I'm just going to use an example from your book, and when we talk about linear and non-linear, this here is what we call a linear equation, and that's because the x and the y, they're just singular, so they've no powers, okay? Well, the power of 1, but still x, y, alright? Non-linear is one that is something to be squared, so when you see this, that's going to be a non-linear equation. Now, before I do start, you will need to look back over how to solve simultaneous equations, look over a little bit of substitution, multiplication of algebra, and then finally guide number methods. They're the 4 things that you would need to look over before you're able to do this. Okay, so for my first step, I'm going to rewrite the linear equation with the subject being the variable that has the coefficient of plus or minus 1, alright? So we're going to rewrite this, and what I can see here, the coefficient, or the variable that has the coefficient of 1 is the x variable. So that's what I'm going to make the subject of my equation, okay? So x plus 4y equals 17. All I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 4y and I'm going to bring it over the far side, okay? And then that's going to give me x equals minus 4y plus 17. Okay, and that's all I have to do for my first step. Okay, for my second step, I'm going to take the equation that I have here for x that I just got in the last step and substitute it into the non-linear equation. So what do I mean by this? I'm going to take this minus 4y plus 17 and I'm going to stick it in here instead of x, okay? So when I just straight substitute that in, I'm going to get minus 4y plus 17 in brackets to be squared plus y squared equals 34. Okay, so my step 3, I always kind of add in an extra step here so students really understand it. Step 3, we need to multiply out the brackets squared. So you can see here we have minus 4y plus 17 to be squared, and that's the same as writing the bracket out twice. Now, really important here that you do a little bit of revision on multiplying out brackets, okay? So remember, there should be 4 terms in total. I always see students, they either add these two together, which you cannot do because they're not like terms, or I often have students that'll square this one and square this one, which again is incorrect because there should be 4 terms in total, okay? So if I go ahead and do that as a little bit of revision now, I'll go through the process. So I have split the first bracket and I get minus 4y, and I always multiply it by the whole of the second bracket. Minus 4y plus 17, and then I have plus 17, so that's the second term here of my first bracket, and I multiply it by the whole of the second bracket. Now some of you use the loop method, so you'll remember that from maybe if Mr. Creedon or one of the other teachers had you, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and use the loop method to multiply out this. So I have minus 4 by minus 4 gives me 16. Y by y is y squared. I have minus 4 by plus 17 gives me minus 68y. Plus 17 by minus 4y gives me minus 68y. And then I have plus 17 by plus 17 gives me plus 289. Okay, now I have 2 like terms here, so I can go ahead and simplify. So I have 16y squared minus 68 gives me minus 136y plus 289. Okay, so my next step then, I'm going to take that and I'm going to sub it back into this equation here, equation number 1. So this whole thing, because remember all we were doing was just solving for this, okay? I'm now going to take this whole thing, pop it back in here, and then just simplify. So if I go ahead and do that, then I have 16y squared minus 136y plus 289. And then I'm going to take this part here and pop that in, so I have plus y squared equals 34. Okay, now to simplify that, all I'm going to do is, so I have a 16y squared and a plus y squared, so that's going to give me 17y squared minus 136y, that doesn't change. And then I'm going to bring over this 34, it becomes minus 34, and what I'll get is plus 255, and that equals 0. Okay, so step 5. Guys, you know with me, I always try and make sure it's not as complicated. So you'll see in the book, it'll divide everything by 17, which you could do, and it simplifies the equation. It doesn't really matter. You could also use guide number, but I often find then you're messing around trying to figure out whether or not you can use guide number and trying to figure out what the guide number be and what the factors would be. So I just think it's much easier to just go straight into the minus b formula. So just as a bit of a recap, the minus b formula. Okay, so there's the minus b formula. I'm just going to go ahead and label all of my a, b and c. So that's going to be my b. And then remember we always include the sign, so that's going to be my c. So then if I go ahead and substitute that in, we will have minus 136, put that in brackets, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is minus 136 to b squared. Remember to put that in brackets if you're popping it into your calculator, because otherwise it'll square the 136 but not the minus, so you'll get a negative number, and you cannot have a negative number underneath this square root. Okay, minus 4 by 17 by 255, just bring that across, and that'll all go over 2 by 17. Okay, so I just went ahead, I always just pop in these numbers into the calculator and figure out what the number will be underneath the square root. Do not attempt to go and put the whole lot of that into the calculator. You're more than likely going to get something that's wrong. Once you do that, pop it in here, do your 2 branches. So you can see here, minus by minus gave me a positive 136. And then I started with my plus on this side and I put my minus on this side. Now, the answers I get then, then I would go ahead and I would put all of this into the calculator, and what you should get is y is equal to 5 on this side, and similarly on the other side you should get y is equal to 3. Okay, last step. Okay, the final step then, step 6. Substitute the y values back into the rewritten linear equation from step 1. So when I have y is equal to 5, so you remember that this is the one that we had in the very beginning when I just brought the minus 4y across. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead then and pop in y equals 5 in for that. So I have x is equal to minus 4 multiplied by 5 plus 17. Okay, and then I suppose on the other side I have y equals 3, so I'm going to put x equals minus 4 by 3 plus 17. So I'll get x equals minus 20 plus 17. Therefore x is equal to minus 3 on that side. And on the other side I have x equal to minus 12 plus 17. So x is equal to plus 5. And that's my final answer. That's all I have to do. Okay guys, have a go with the homework. I'm going to post up one more video like this, just going through another question just for those of you who just feel you need a little bit more practice. And that's it.